This is Sacramento, the capital city of California, once a beacon of rich history, political significance, and vibrant culture. Nestled at the confluence of the Sacramento and American rivers, this city was born out of the Gold Rush era's adventurous spirit and later flourished as the agricultural heart of the Central Valley. Iconic landmarks like the California State Railroad Museum and the Sacramento Zoo provide a glimpse into the dynamic identity that continues to attract residents and tourists alike. Yet beneath the gleaming surface, Sacramento harbors a darker side that often goes unseen. Rising crime rates, a worsening homelessness crisis, and growing economic inequality are tarnishing the idealized image of this city. Welcome to the darker side of Sacramento. Behind the grandeur of the Capitol building and the nostalgic charm of old Sacramento lies a grim reality. A landscape dotted with makeshift tents and encampments lining the city's streets. Homelessness in Sacramento has surged dramatically, with over 5,500 people living without stable housing, a figure that has risen nearly 20% since 2017. Despite efforts by local government to address the issue through housing initiatives and assistance programs, these measures have proven insufficient. The situation has been exacerbated by high unemployment rates and the economic instability brought on by the pandemic. Many families have found themselves living in their cars or relying on motel vouchers, struggling to keep their children in school. While resources like the Mustard Seed School offer crucial support to homeless youth, they simply cannot accommodate the growing demand. Adding to the irony, even as efforts to assist the homeless continue, the issue has increasingly been criminalized. Policies such as camping bans and restrictions on sleeping in public spaces push these vulnerable populations further to the margins, worsening their already precarious circumstances. Although Sacramento is known for its peaceful image, the city's nightlife reveals a hidden world of exploitation and danger, particularly through prostitution and human trafficking. The underbelly of Sacramento's after-hours scene exposes a harsh reality involving violence, addiction, and exploitation. Human trafficking often intersects with prostitution here, with many sex workers being introduced to the trade at a disturbingly young age, sometimes as early as 12 years old. These individuals are trapped in a cycle of abuse, with little hope of escape. Even though prostitution is technically illegal in California, recent legislative changes, such as the removal of laws against loitering with the intent to engage in prostitution, have made it easier for traffickers and pimps to operate without fear of prosecution. This has led to a notable increase in prostitution across the city, with Stockton Boulevard becoming an unofficial hub for open sex work, where women and minors are routinely exploited in violent, dangerous conditions. Online prostitution, which once offered a modicum of safety for sex workers, has largely vanished after government crackdowns on websites like My Red Book. The closure of these platforms has forced many back onto the streets, where they face heightened risks of violence and disease. Sacramento is also grappling with a growing drug crisis, with opioid abuse, particularly involving fentanyl, at its heart. In recent years, the number of overdose deaths has sharply risen, with 116 recorded in Sacramento County alone in 2021. Fentanyl, a potent synthetic opioid, is deadly even in small doses and is often mixed into street drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. This makes drug users, especially those living on the streets, increasingly vulnerable to sudden, fatal overdoses. The crisis cuts across all demographics, affecting people of various ages and socioeconomic backgrounds. Fentanyl has become a looming public health threat, ensnaring both longtime addicts and first-time users alike. Despite efforts by local authorities, such as the creation of the Sacramento County Opioid Coalition, significant challenges remain. This coalition aims to curb overdoses and expand access to treatment by distributing life-saving drugs like naloxone, also known as Narcan, which can reverse the effects of an overdose. However, the growing circulation of fentanyl-laced drugs continues to pose a severe and evolving danger to the community. Adding to the city's troubles is the enduring presence of gang activity, which has long plagued Sacramento. Violent street gangs like the Oak Park Bloods and Crips have fostered a climate of fear and insecurity in many neighborhoods. Beyond these, ethnic gangs, including Hispanic and Asian groups, are also entrenched in the city's criminal landscape, engaging in activities ranging from drug trafficking to violent assaults. The frequent clashes between these gangs often result in deadly consequences, heightening the sense of danger for Sacramento residents. In 2021, law enforcement successfully launched a major crackdown on the Oak Park Bloods, one of the city's most notorious gangs. The operation led to the arrest of 16 members and the seizure of over 125 firearms, including ghost guns, untraceable weapons without serial numbers. The Oak Park Bloods were implicated in various violent crimes, including homicides and illegal arms dealing, presenting a serious threat to the safety of Sacramento's citizens. However, the gang violence would rear its head again the following year. On April 3rd, 2022, at around 2 a.m., downtown Sacramento became the scene of a horrific mass shooting. 6 people were killed and 12 others injured in what local media, including the Sacramento Bee, described as the worst mass shooting in the city's history. Authorities believe 5 individuals were involved in the brutal attack, further highlighting the ongoing violence that grips certain parts of the city. While larger gangs like the Bloods and Crips dominate headlines, Sacramento also faces the threat of smaller, often more brutal local gangs. These smaller groups are frequently embroiled in internal conflicts, leading to even more violent confrontations as they fight for control of territory and reputation. Their presence has intensified tensions, especially in historically crime-ridden areas, exacerbating the already fragile security situation in Sacramento. In this way, Sacramento's darker undercurrents, marked by addiction and gang violence, paint a stark contrast to the city's more polished, historic image. It's a place where hope and struggle coexist, creating a complex reality that lies beneath its surface. Sacramento's dark side isn't limited to crime or social struggles. It extends into corruption and mismanagement within both the private and public sectors. One of the most notable scandals in recent years involved the former CEO of a nonprofit organization who embezzled over $1 million through a fraudulent identity theft scheme and illegal transactions. This case illustrates how even institutions meant to uplift the community can fall prey to the greed of individuals, eroding public trust in organizations that are supposed to serve society's most vulnerable. The city's government has also faced harsh criticism for poor financial management. In 2024, Sacramento found itself grappling with a massive budget deficit of over $50 million. Spiraling expenditures, including costly development projects and rising salaries for city officials, have contributed to the city's mounting debt. Among the controversial moves was City Manager Howard Chan's push, a request made in the midst of this financial crisis, sparking public outrage as the budget shortfall continued to grow. Ironically, despite receiving nearly $200 million in federal aid during the pandemic, Sacramento has been unable to stabilize its budget. Much of the funds have been allocated to address homelessness, yet visible progress remains elusive. Critics argue that exorbitant costs tied to building housing for the homeless have drained resources while public services deteriorate. This has raised questions about the efficiency and transparency of how the city is managing its funds, particularly in addressing such pressing social issues. Though Sacramento has grown and evolved as California's capital, it remains a place where low-wage workers, migrants, and the working poor continue to struggle against the rising cost of living. For many, especially those relying on minimum wage, the city's economic boom has not translated into improved livelihoods. While the minimum wage in certain sectors, such as fast food, has risen to $20 per hour, this still falls short of covering basic living expenses. The relentless increase in housing prices and everyday necessities leaves many workers unable to maintain a decent standard of living. Sacramento's poverty levels reflect a stark income disparity, with the poverty rate standing at 18.9% in 2023. This economic divide is most striking when examined through the lens of racial inequality. Latinx and African American communities are disproportionately affected by poverty, facing higher rates of economic hardship. Even in households where one or more family members are employed, the wages they earn often fail to meet the cost of living, deepening the city's socioeconomic divides. The city's inability to meaningfully address these issues has left many residents feeling abandoned, as Sacramento continues to struggle with the unsettling reality of inequality and poverty. While some neighborhoods thrive, others are left behind, locked in a cycle of hardship that local government efforts have yet to resolve.